Hey, it's Kisha here with Defending the Early Years podcast. We'll be focusing on amplifying the voices of early childhood educators, advocates, and all of those who love children.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Defending the Early Years podcast with Kisha Reed. And today I have Andrea. Andrea, can you pronounce your last name for me?
Absolutely. It's Dugid.
Dugid. You have told me that before, and I just like to give it so much spice. I tend to do that with names.
Yeah, it's a hard one to read phonetically. It doesn't really make any sense.
But I love it. Do good. It's almost like do good. And you are doing
Exactly.
so much good in the world of ECE. I want to start
Thank
by
you.
telling a little bit about you. You have been working with children for 15 years plus in the classroom, focusing on establishing strong connections with the children and the adults alike. You create environments that are inviting for children and accepting who they are right now. And their parents are met without judgment. You're committed to developmentally appropriate practice, and you focus on social emotional skill building through open-ended art and sensory invitations. You have a heart for any who feel othered as an ECE. I mean, in general, right?
Yeah,
Anyone who
yeah.
feels othered in general. And you are now, congratulations, yay! Because I know how hard you worked on this.
Thank you.
A Maryland State Department of Education approved trainer.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I want to land here. Of course, we're going to go all over the place, but I want to land here at the right now, where
Okay.
you are, and where it came from. So before we jump to that, I want to just say hello and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Oh my goodness. I am always so excited to talk to you because your excitement and passion for this work just seeps out of your pores. So I wanted to bring you here because everybody deserves to hear someone who is as passionate
Oh,
as you are about this work.
thank you.
And I personally got a chance to experience your workshop. And I know it is a culmination of your whole journey. So if you don't mind telling us a little bit about that, like where did you start and where did this come from?
Well, it's funny. I teach 2-year-olds, and in general, most people would rather be in the 3-year-old or 4-year-old room, is my experience. And I sort of got on a track of getting an aide and training them up, and then more 2-year-olds would sign on. And so we'd have to open another 2-year-old room, and that aide would become a lead teacher. And I'd get another new aide and I'd train them up. And then we'd get another room and they'd become a lead teacher. And I've ended it oddly, I have trained multiple people. And over time, I noticed a pattern of people saying, you should really do this. You should train other teachers. And I thought, well, I would love to do that. I don't really know how to make that happen. And then you and I had a conversation about perhaps me coming to one of your schools and coming on staff. And logistically, that didn't work out. But at the end of the conversation, you said, but I know why we're having this conversation. It's because you're going to come and you're going to do a training at my retreat. And I said,
Mhm.
I would love to do that, but I don't really have the credentials to do that. You're the third, fourth, fifth person to tell me that I should be training other teachers. But I got to make that happen. And you said, yes, you do need to make it happen. And then over time, we just kept checking in with each other. And I would tell you about the frustrations and the successes, and this is what's happening. And it was a long journey, and it sort of opened my eyes to some of my own learning struggles. I was undiagnosed ADHD. College was more challenging than it really should have been. Um, in hindsight, now I realize it was more challenging for me than it was for many of my peers
Mhm.
because I had absolutely no support, let alone recognition that I was struggling in a way that might be
Mhm.
different from my peers. And then to be an adult now, having raised 3 kids, all who have ADHD, and then to have to sit down and do independent learning and stay on top of it and come back to it. And think about it when it wasn't really happening it was a challenge. It was a real challenge. Um, but part of the process is to create a session and get it approved by the state. And so mine was about self-care for early childhood educators because burnout is so rampant in the field. And there are so many things that people can do to care for themselves beyond what the industry tells us. And by industry, I mean the self-care industry,
Mm-hmm.
which is, it's built on the idea that you're not going to get it right because we need you to come back and buy the next thing. If you read this book and it doesn't, and suddenly you're not healed, it's because you didn't do it right and you need to buy the next book. By default, we're never going to
Yeah.
be done. And that's sort of, there's a global industry based on that.
Yeah, they want to keep you being a consumer.
Exactly, exactly. So there are things that we can do. And when we look at a whole sort of big picture of nervous system, and this might be more than you want to get into, but the
No,
idea of
get into it. That is what we're here for.
the idea that our body is reacting, and we can address our body's reactions. We can't necessarily fix the world, but we can address how we respond to it. And
Mm.
that's what's the powerful piece because it really does have lasting impacts on our health. It has immediate impacts and it has long-term impacts on our health and well-being, both physical and mental.
And I love that it puts us in the driver's seat too,
Right, right.
gives
And
us the tools.
yeah, yeah. So, yes, I became a trainer, and that is the session I've done. And I've sort of, I'll be honest with you, hit a speed bump in that I haven't submitted any other trainings for approval because I get sort of stuck in the mindset of I don't know what people don't know. And
Mm,
I never want to condescend to people and assume that they don't know something. So I'm sort of sitting over here in my bubble waiting for someone to say, you know what? I need some support in this. And once I would have that information, then I could absolutely crank out anything. But in the meantime, I'm sort of um, focusing on my own classroom. I have a great niece who's turning 2, and I spend a lot of time with her. I still have a child in college. I have a senior in high school applying to colleges, so there's still a lot of family things going on too. I have a son who's
mhm.
engaged, and there's a wedding we're
Ooh.
planning, and it's a busy season in life. So the training has sort of taken a bit of a backseat in terms of moving forward and trying to get busier with that. I'm content with offering this one session. To be honest with you, I am really content with that because it's so powerful and it matters. It's meaningful to people.
hmm
So,
And I think that sometimes that is, you find your niche, you find where your spirit settles and where your heart is, and you do that, and you do that well, and you do that
mhm.
again and again. Because I've done your workshop, and it doesn't feel to me like something that is one and done. Like it feels like
Right,
something that you can create a workshop that springboards off of that workshop. I don't know that it needs to be a total different subject. I mean, there's so
right,
much to
right,
be done with self-care, self-awareness, the self-work in general that has to
right.
happen with early childhood educators. I talk a lot about that self-reflective piece. Like
Hmm.
we're by caring for ourselves and keeping ourselves well, we're also doing a service to the children that we're caring for, right? Because
100%.
you got to come in there with your cup juicy. We
Right,
can't be
right,
thirsty. You can't be
right.
dry. Your cup has to be juicy. We're human, so our cup might not always be full every day, but we cannot come in with an empty cup and expect to be what the children need. So I
Absolutely.
think that the top, and also I'd like to say that um, in 30 years of working with young children, I'm trying to rack my brain outside of my own seeking and my own reading, how many sessions I have ever seen, witnessed, experienced, partaken in that had to do with the actual wellness and care for the caregiver.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
don't think I have.
And it's something to care for oneself is literally world-changing work because it's the ripple effect. we can't necessarily fix everything, but we can show up for the people in our care, for the people in our
Mhm.
families, in our community, and that ripple effect, then they show up for those people in their lives. That's what's going to change the world. Not to say that I am a world, I don't mean that. I just
You
mean that
are.
this
You
work
are.
is it is so important, and
Mhm.
it's so honoring of the human condition and of each individual. And you mentioned the idea of showing up with your with a cup that's full and ready to overflow. But at the same time, we're all worthy of it, regardless of what we offer it to other people, just by the very nature. In the same way
Mhm.
that we love children for the sake of who they are in the moment and not for the adult they're going to be. Or I love my 2 year olds as 2 year olds, not for the 3 year old they're going to be. I'm not training them up to sit still in a circle time so that they can do that when they're 3. I trust that when they're 3, they're going to have the skills because they're 3 by default.
Mhm.
Not that 3 year old
Yes.
should be sitting in circle time. I don't mean that by any means.
I know what you
Um,
mean. So what would you tell a let's just say I'm going to play a role here. Let's just say I am a burnt out early childhood educator. I've been doing this for a long time, and now my boss has put me in the toddler room, and my goodness, my back hurts. And I haven't done toddlers in years. I really thrive with the older kids because I don't have to
right,
pick them up, I don't have to change their
right.
diapers. I am burnt out. What
Yeah.
would you say to that person?
Just be. Honestly, just be present. Don't be thinking about anything. Don't be planning anything. Don't worry about the next thing that's coming up. Don't worry about the supplies you have. Just be present with that toddler because that's and truly that's for any age, right? Because that's all
Mhm.
anybody needs. Everybody wants to be seen. Everybody wants to be known. So it doesn't matter if it's your 15-year-old at the end of a school day or a 2 year old and you've just walked into that toddler room because you're subbing. Every human being wants to be seen and to be known and to be loved for who they are in that moment. That's all you
Mhm.
have to worry about. That's it. No special supplies necessary.
Well, that's wonderful. And I think that, especially during, dare I say it, COVID times,
Mm,
there was a lot of, I don't think I ever felt burnout ever until experiencing that. And that was like, it was trauma, like a
mhm,
traumatic experience.
mhm.
Burnout, I mean, I don't even know how to describe it, but, um, what happens when the person who's in charge of caring for the adult, me as the director, what
Uh-huh.
happens when that person burns out? Like, I feel like sometimes when you're in charge, it is so lonely. It is sometimes it's scary. You don't have the same supports as everyone else has. What are some tools that you would suggest for the director, the owner, someone who's making tough decisions every day, all day? How do they um, keep grounded
Wow, that's a good question.
and support themselves?
Um, in the same way that everybody can do it, there are things, just first of all, if you can remember back to the idea of the telegraph line from Schoolhouse Rock. Do you remember
Mhm,
the
mhm,
video? So, talking about the nervous system and the idea that our body responds to stimuli, to stress, creates the chemicals involved so that we can react quickly to it. Um, Noticing what your body is telling you because it's all perceived. Stress is perceived, trauma is perceived. What causes me stress might not cause you stress, and what causes me stress today might not cause me stress tomorrow, and that's really important to notice. How is it showing up for me? um, and then doing things sort of to maintain your own health and well-being, practices like mindfulness and positive thinking, and a lot of those things have been hijacked by self-care industry folks, who are going to sell you a journal for your mindfulness journey. Um, but there is science behind it. And I felt like when I was working on that presentation, it was really, really important to include the sources for the science behind it because otherwise it's like woo woo. It's just sort of people being silly and telling me things that don't have any basis of truth. But it's scientifically proven. There's studies from NIH. There's things that Navy SEALs are doing for Pete's sake. Um, and so that kind of, I feel like that's really powerful to know that it's actually evidence-based work.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that journaling, and when you say mindfulness, what does that look like as a director
As
or
a tool,
parent,
yeah.
or a
Yeah.
parent or early childhood educator? What does mindfulness on a day-to-day, like the actual practice, look like?
Yeah.
And I'm sure it can look many, many ways.
Yeah.
What does it
Um,
look like? Or even what have you heard other educators describe it to look like for them?
um, in general, mindfulness is the idea of being aware of what's just in your immediate presence, what's happening right now, what can you hear right now, and what emotions is it bringing up for you. But the most important aspect of it is to recognize those things, cultivate that awareness and the acceptance without the judgment. So the idea that, and you hear this a lot in yoga, like when you're supposed to be in shavasana and you're relaxing and
Mm-hmm.
the thoughts come in and they always tell you just acknowledge it and let it pass instead of beating yourself up and saying, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be relaxing right now. Why can't I even just relax right now? So that's the mindfulness. And part of it too is inherently it increases your gratitude. So as you're if doing a mindfulness journal, for example, just writing things down to notice the things in your life, thinking about what you do have, appreciating what you do have in your life instead of focusing on what you don't have in your life. It encourages us to notice that in the people in our lives, in our community, on a daily basis, and all of that improves our brain chemistry and improves the structure of our brain, the number, the neurons, the connections, all of that positively.
Hmm. And that's so true. I'm currently in the middle, not in the middle, at the beginning of taking a 200-hour yoga instructor
Oh,
certification.
fun.
It is fun. And when I signed up, I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to learn positions and poses and move my body and be able to invite others to move their body with me. That was my intention. Oh my
Hmm.
gosh, I'm getting so much more.
Hmm.
It's become such a life altering experience because the program that I signed up for is authentic yoga. Like you're learning the history of yoga
Uh-huh.
from the origins of the people who created it. You are learning the deep mindfulness piece. You're learning the self-reflective piece, and these are all things that, like, as a person, I've been working on for an extended period of time. So it's so interesting how everything just it universally just connects, right?
Right.
So it directly affected and enhanced my teaching, my being a wife, my being a mother,
Hmm.
my
Hmm.
just being a human
Hmm.
being. So
Right.
it's really profound and beautiful. And um it honestly has put words and meaning to the work that I was already doing,
Hmm.
and gave me tools that are going to forever change the way that I work with young children. So
That's beautiful.
the,
Going back,
it is.
I was going to say, going back to what can a director do or any human do, I think it's great. A lot of people are walking now. It's, we all recognize that even just walking is enough. You don't have to
Mhm.
necessarily go out and run 5 miles. Um, but we tend to check out a little bit and listen to a podcast or listen to music. And even the smallest change of turning that stuff off and listening to whatever you hear in your community,
Mhm.
being present in that moment, being aware of the sounds. Um, they say that the bird song is good for our nervous system because historically you wouldn't hear birds if there were threats around. So even just walking, if you have a dog, if you're taking a walk, I will do things like sort of just stop randomly. It doesn't have to be in a specific spot. It doesn't have to be picturesque in any way. And I'll look at something and see how far can I see? What's the farthest thing I can see?
Mm.
And even just something that simple is grounding yourself and bringing you to the present.
Mm-hmm.
What's the closest thing? What can I hear? There's grounding techniques. You can do the 5 4 3 2 1 in terms of bringing yourself to the presence is a grounding technique. Or is the idea of with grounding, and you can think of what are 5 things I can see, 4 things I can hear, 3 things I can touch, 2 things I can smell, 1 thing I can taste. And it doesn't really matter how many you do. That's not the science, but the idea that just bringing yourself into an awareness of your current situation.
And
Um,
that what you just said, the 5 4 3 2 1 is beautiful to do with children because
Absolutely.
yeah, because
Absolutely.
them learning these techniques at a young age. Imagine if we have always had these tools, right?
Right. And like we do a lot of breathing, I think, in preschool, a lot of breath work, which is fantastic. But it needs to be an overall practice, not it's not a fire hose. It's not something that you talk about in the moment when you need it.
Mm,
It's something you have to do all the time with the children because they can't access it when they're in a moment of stress. And we know that in early childhood. So the
mhm.
idea of doing breathing, however you want to do it, as a balloon, breathing in, smelling a flower, blowing out a candle, all of the little things. I love the ideas of like the hand, and as you're going up, you're inhaling, and as you're going down, your thumb, you're exhaling. As you go up your finger, you're inhaling. As you go down your finger, you're exhaling, and up your ring finger down, that kind of thing. Or the rainbow idea. There's so many resources on the internet for that make it palatable for an early childhood environment. But those are the kinds of things that you want to do every day in your normal environment so that when a child is stressed, we can pull that out and it's not the first time they've heard it.
It's enculturated. It's a part of who you guys are together.
Exactly.
I love that. Wow. So, we were talking the other day, and you started to tell me a story about your last workshop that you presented,
Yeah, yeah.
and I would love to close out with that story because it sounded like it was going to be a beautiful one.
Well, it was a really special morning. I adjusted the training to not be about early childhood educators, but to be about women. And it was an event held in my community for women only. And it was really fun to look, well, I don't know if fun is the right word, but it was interesting to sort of do the research to find the statistics about women in general versus early childhood educators. And guess what? It's not different because who
Mm,
are early childhood educators, right?
yeah, for the
So,
most part, it's women.
so
Mhm.
by default, um, it's the same population. So, burnout in women and burnout is defined as workplace condition, but it's really not because women are taking care of their children and their parents and they're taking care of their employees and they're
Mhm.
showing up for all of these people in their lives. So burnout can happen regardless of whether you're in an office or not in an office. It doesn't matter. But it was fascinating because this body of women, many of them had never heard anything like this. Anything like
Mm,
this. They'd never heard about their nervous system. They'd never heard about cortisol. They'd never heard about trauma, really. And I talked about the idea that, when you're out in the woods and you meet a bear, your body is going to respond. We're going to kick into fight or flight, and you're either going to run from that bear, you're going to fight the bear, but your body is going to respond to help you survive. But we get into a sticky situation when the bear comes home every night and your body responds every day, every
mm,
night, to the possibility of this danger. And your cortisol gets elevated, and that has the litany of um, long-term health impacts, whether it's cardiovascular, type 2 diabetes. Um, and by the end, I want to say, I mean, really, by the middle. One woman was crying by the middle. By the end, another was crying and hugging me and just feeling seen. And they just had never had an opportunity to look at themselves as being worthy of care and had never really considered the idea that regardless of the people they serve, that they themselves are worthy of this care.
Yes. Wow.
And then after the fact, people reached out with the tools, talking about the tools that they'd been using from the session and thanking me for introducing them to these tools because they were able to immediately put it into practice. One woman went back to her high school where she's a counselor and did it with her high schoolers, did some of the activities with her high schoolers. So that ripple effect. Now these are 15.
Yeah, I was going to say it's that's what you were saying before with that spread and that ripple effect and how
Right.
you're one person, but you're doing the work of so many because every time you share this message with one person, they take it back into their life.
Can you imagine being 15 and getting this message?
Mm.
I mean, the trajectory of that female's life
Mm-hmm.
blows my mind. Like so much pain can be avoided for that young woman as she moves on in life, as she realizes what she's aware of and what she's responsible for and what she's not responsible for. That she doesn't actually have to maintain the emotional stability of the people in her lives, that
Yeah.
it's not her job. I mean, that's really incredible. I'm excited by that.
Well, I am excited for you and your work and for this to continue. And whether you do this workshop again and again and again with more and more women, or you create 25 others, it is amazing work. And I'm super proud of you. And I want to thank you for what you are doing for young children, what you're doing for the people who care for them, and for what you're doing in general for the world. Can you please tell us how we can get in contact with you? Because I'm sure there are listeners right now who want to experience one of your sessions.
I'm working on my website. It's joyfulrootsece.com. But in the meantime, let me give you my email address. It's A and then the last name, DIUGUID at Comcast, COMCAST.net. And I'm just going to warn you, like I have to warn everybody else, it's a palindrome, my last name. So make sure it's going the right direction.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Every time I have to double check.
Yeah. It's a hard one to marry into.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today.
It's my absolute pleasure.
Keep
Thanks for having me.
on doing that great work.
Thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
And that was another episode of the Defending the Early Years podcast. Defending the Early Years works to support the rights and needs of young children nationally. Learn more at DEY.org. Pay us a visit, sign up for our newsletter, or connect with us on social media. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.